TCU loses a young pass rusher for the season, and it has a big effect on their rotation moving forward.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. They have an exciting day coming up on August 26th. It's NFL Futures Bets Day. I will tell you about that later on in the show. Is Sonny Dykes on the hot seat in 2025? We'll talk about that in segment 3. We'll also hear from Coach Julius Brown. Juice is his nickname, corners coach for TCU. But we start today with some unfortunate injury news. This is a very exciting freshman class, 2025 class. And a guy that wasn't the highest rated in this class, but was super productive at DeSoto High School. And I was just a big fan of the way he played when I turned on his film. He had 23 and a half sacks a couple of years ago at DeSoto. Keelan Abrams. He was making waves in spring practice and then in fall camp. Now, he was running with the threes for the most part, the third team. But we've talked this offseason about a thin rotation at that stud linebacker, stand-up edge rusher position. Devin Deal, Jonathan Bax. Once you get past those two guys, it's pretty open. It's a lot of young guys that are battling it out, trying to make an impression. So I thought Abrams, along with Chad Woodfork, John Schobel, potentially Jared Martin, had a chance to get in there at times. It was going to be situational, but he would be there. Well, unfortunately, on an Instagram story last night, Keelan said 23, which is his number, out for the season. But I can promise y'all when I come back, I have a story to tell. And it's a picture of him in his uniform. And then next to that is a picture of him in what appears to be a full leg brace. So not sure if it was a knee injury, a fracture in the leg, or if it was an ACL, that type of thing. But Keelan Abrams already out for the season. Now, TCU has been fairly fortunate in fall camp for the most part, and that you haven't had a lot of these season-ending injuries. But suddenly, at that outside linebacker position, you have a couple guys that maybe you weren't penciling in as guys who are going to play right away, but players that could give some relief and some rotation and some depth to that position are now gone. Keelan Abrams officially out for the year. Michael Ibukun Okeode, who's coming off a season-ending injury from last season, he was carted off last week, according to Sonny Dykes. Spent a couple days in the hospital, had a really scary neck injury. So no timetable for him, but you would imagine, obviously, health coming first there. They're going to figure out what's wrong, what's going on. So an extended period of time or an extended absence expected from him as well. So that's two pass rushers now in Keelan and Michael that aren't going to be there. And what does that mean for this defense? Well, it puts a lot of pressure in my mind on your not starters, but Devin Deal's going to be the starter, but on Deal and Bax to step up and make plays. And Jonathan Bax, I've said this a couple times, in the last few months, it's a big year for him to be productive and hopefully get on the field more and make plays. This is third year in the program. We've heard his name a lot. It just hasn't translated yet to playing time and then making plays on the field. He'll have those opportunities this year. I mean, at this point, he's going to be the guy behind Deal. Once you get past those two guys, though, suddenly there's a big question about, okay, who steps up and gives you some more depth there? Chad Woodfork is the 4-star edge rusher that they really like. Haven't heard him a lot in these practice reports. Not super familiar with what he's doing yet, but he certainly looks the part. And now maybe he gets some more opportunities just because you have limited players there. But Chad Woodfork, John Schobel, and Jared Martin, suddenly there's some pressure on one of those players to emerge. Now, you haven't lost a starter for the season yet. They've had some guys that have been banged up. Jordan Bailey, I don't think has practiced yet. Major Everhart's been out for the last few practices. Marcus Deal is back in practice. It seemed like that was just maybe kind of a load management issue or making sure that he's fully healthy once the season gets going. So you've done okay on the injury front. Last year was tough. You lost Avery Helm to an ACL last fall camp. You lost Vernon Glover as well. Those were two of your main players at corner. Paul Olawale started out sort of as a day-to-day, week-to-week type of injury, but then it just gradually progressed, and suddenly midway through the season, it was like, hey, he's got an Achilles issue. He's going to have surgery. We're going to shut him down. None of that yet. But you're getting to that point of practice before the season starts where obviously you still want to get those reps in. The most important thing, though, at this point is just getting to the season healthy. Like, you can't afford to lose more depth. You can't afford to lose starters. There's a lot of expectations around this year, and nothing will derail you quicker than injuries. And I also just hate this for Keelan because super promising young player, had taken advantage of his opportunities and made the most of them so far. And he has to work his way back now. If it is a significant leg injury, which it appears that's the case, what does that do to his explosiveness? He's also a player that I was hoping, like, through the season and through next off season, could bulk up some, work with the nutrition team, work with the strength and conditioning team to put on some good weight and get bigger. That's not necessarily on hold now, but first priority is going to be rehabbing that injury, making sure you're at full strength again, and then potentially you can, start working on some of those things, preparing for next season. But it sounds like we're talking about, a 4 or 5 month process here to get healthy. So this is significant. I mean, it's not a starter, and honestly, it's not a player that you might even see that much of on that first depth chart. But TCU has to get to a place as a defense where they can rotate defensive linemen and pass rushers in and out consistently and not see a huge drop-off. And Abrams was a player that I was excited about just getting some opportunities, getting some chances. And if he made some plays, you could feed him more of that. If it didn't, at least he got that experience. But there's no substitute for that experience, and now he loses that in his true freshman season. But as he said, he can work his way back. So pay attention to Chad Woodfork, John Schobel, Jared Martin, what these guys do as we lead up to that North Carolina game, because it's possible that they'll be called upon in the first few weeks of the season to give backs and deal some rest. And then you also always wonder about, your starters staying healthy as well. Where are they at? If there is an injury, well, now you have less depth at that edge rusher spot. And this is supposed to be the season where we really see that step forward for Andy Avalos' defense in that regard. I mean, the big reputation that he had coming over from Boise State, and before that he was at Oregon, was he was very good at setting up his pass rushers in one-on-one situations where they could win. He was really good at bringing exotic blitzes and bringing pressures. Colton Deary told me at media days that A.J. Ricker has told the offensive line, if you can survive practice against us, then you won't see anything crazier than what he's going to throw at you on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, that's high praise, right? So that's the type of defensive mind he is. To be honest, we didn't see that last year. And I think part of that was you didn't totally trust your secondary. That was a work in progress. But also, you just didn't have the depth and the bodies, on a week-to-week basis to really bring that heat and have guys that you could trust to win those one-on-one battles. So, not that he was going to play 40 snaps a game or even maybe be involved each and every week, but I thought Abrams could have been a good change of pace type of guy. You get athletic players out there with fresh legs, and that can really give tackles fits if they're not ready to kick back and get in that stance and hold their ground, because just that speed off the edge and that ability to bend and make plays, it's very difficult if you're coming in, cold, and you have that those fresh legs and that spring and that explosiveness in your step. That's tough for those tackles to handle that. So I believed Abrams could be that type of player for them, but it'll have to be next season now, as he is out for the year. And we'll keep an eye on any more injury reports. And no timetable for Michael right now. We'll see where he's at in the coming weeks. But again, I think serious neck injury, like you're talking about keeping somebody's health first before you really get into when they're going to play football again. When we come back, what did Juice Brown have to say about a freshman corner that he really likes? And is Elijah Jackson ready to play? That's coming up next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. It's almost that time of year. You're going to be hosting people each and every week, watching games. Go to Wayfair.com. Whether it's outdoor or indoor furniture, Wayfair makes it really easy for you to give your home the refresh it needs. You can grab specific items. They have plenty of inventory. Delivery was fast and free, even for something big. It's so convenient to find exactly what you need all in one place at a price that fits your budget. It's the perfect time to get your home ready, whether it's organizing, upgrading your workspace, or making dinners easier by changing some things around in the kitchen. Get organized, refreshed, and back to routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Give Wayfair a try today. Wayfair.com. They make it easy for you. So sticking with the defense, and when we talk about pass rushing and getting the quarterback, it coincides with your secondary. If you can trust your secondary to win one-on-one matchups on the outside at that corner spot, then it allows you the flexibility to take more chances on defense. It also just gives your, coordinator the confidence to bring that extra pressure at times. So Julius Brown, who goes by the nickname Juice, corners coach for TCU, he spoke with the media after practice on Wednesday and said a few things that I found interesting. First off, so Elijah Jackson, he is a transfer from University of Washington, played on that team that went to the national championship a few years ago and actually had a key pass breakup in the Texas game that sent the Huskies to the national championship when they defeated UT in the semifinal. He's been around for a long time in college football. He's played for Coach Brown before, so he understands the system. But he missed all of spring, and Coach Brown said that he hasn't been active, at least through Wednesday in camp, that he's been working really hard. He's one of the first guys in the meeting room. He's a good asset to have as far as talking to players because he understands the system. He knows what the expectation is, having Coach Brown as his former position coach at Washington, but he hasn't been getting those physical reps. And I'm at the point now where I hope he adds some good depth to the secondary in this corner room. I believe Avery, if I had to guess today, I think Avery Helm and Channing Canada are your starting corners. I think Vernon Glover's going to get some time in the rotation. I also believe in Javon McIvor, who started to really progress and come on late in the season. And I'm not totally counting out Elijah Jackson, but I just think at this point, whatever injury he's dealing with, even if he's able to come back this weekend and get started with 2 weeks to go until the season starts, it's going to take some time to get him up to speed and acclimated back into playing shape. Like, not from a mental standpoint. I think as a veteran player, as someone who has played for Coach Brown before, he'll be fine in that aspect of it. But it's going to take some time for him to get back to a place physically where he'll be ready to go. Now, the advantage to that is it gives you a fifth corner, later on in the season and he doesn't have to be fifth in the rotation, but it gives you an extra player later on in the season that you can count on to make plays. Because a big problem last year was JT Broughton struggled on the other side of Lamarian James, and it took 5 or 6 weeks to find somebody who could step in and do that job. And in Canada and McIver both started to kind of put it together late in the season, but it was, Utah game onward where you started to see those results really happen. So you need somebody that, if Canada struggles to start the year, or if you just end up having more of a rotation and have more of an ability to have some flexibility back there, then that's a big plus. But I'm at the point now where I wouldn't expect Elijah Jackson to start the season. Definitely not as a starter, but I don't even know if he'll really be a huge factor for the first few weeks, because I think it's just going to take some time for him to get to a place again where he can play at a high level. He was also asked about a freshman, and I've talked a lot about freshmen during this camp. It's an impressive class. This is about Gil Jackson, one of their corners that they really like, who has stepped in fall camp and has done a nice job.
He was a kid that wasn't here in the spring. He's really picked it up. I mean, he knows a lot of what he's doing. He still makes mistakes, right? But he has an idea. He knows when he makes a mistake. Football is important to him. He really is, and he's a kid that works at it. He accepts coaching, and he's done everything that we've asked so far. So he has been a surprise, and he's just going to continue to get better and better.
So some good stuff there, and that audio is courtesy of Horned Frog Blitz YouTube channel. Jeremy Clark asked that question, but he went on to say Gil's really tall. He's like 6'3", which for a corner, I mean, even in today's world, where I remember talking to Brian Smith, I guess it was a couple of years ago now, about recruiting, and he's our Locked On recruiting expert. He also hosts a show called Locked On Portal Podcast. But he was talking to me about that's the new wave now with corners. Everybody wants players that are long and athletic, and that if they get beat, off a release, they can make up for it running down the field stride for stride with these wide receivers, just because they have that ability to take those long strides with their size. But Coach points out that one thing that makes Jackson special, he said a lot of times when you have these 6 feet plus corners, they really struggle with that short area quickness. So they're able to open up their hips and run with wide receivers down the field, but that, moving in a phone booth where a receiver breaks down on that route or makes a cut or changes direction, they can really struggle with that aspect of it. But apparently Gil's very good at that too. He's not afraid to press people and to get into people and be physical with them. So all of that's a huge plus. Now, I just ran down, I think there's 4 or 5 guys already that are going to be making plays at that corner spot this year, but you never know. I mean, people get thrown in there and things change. And if suddenly somebody's struggling, or if there's an injury, or if he's just, he said he's impressive and he said he's a surprise, especially considering he wasn't around during the spring. So he stepped in immediately in fall camp and has made things happen. And you have a few of those every year. Like this season, it seems more pronounced because we've also seen Jacoby Hayes, the wide receiver from Midlothian that they like a lot, who apparently is going to get some playing time right away. He's been active in fall camp and is expected to be active during the season. But Gil Jackson is another one of those dudes that's just making plays in practice to the point that they're like, okay, we're going to have to find a spot for this guy. Ryan Hughes last year, he was that player at tackle. He's going to be their starting tackle on the left-hand side, I believe, this year. But Sonny said he wasn't a player that coming to campus they thought would be an immediate contributor, but he just kept showing up. He kept making plays. And one day they looked up and they're like, hey, we need to give this guy an opportunity because he just continues to impress, and he's impressing us so much, we can't keep him off the field. So Gil Jackson, true freshman corner, making waves already in camp, has that big physical frame and also the ability, according to coach, to step in and move in those, short areas where he can show that quickness as well. When we come back, is Sonny Dykes on the hot seat in 2025? It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel, FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours on August 26th, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, whether you're calling the MVP, on a long shot division winner, or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one. This is your moment. If you believe in the Brian Schottenheimer-led Cowboys, please let me know so I can call the police. But if you want to bet on FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app, you can do that. If you think they're a long shot, if you think they're going to win the NFC East, you can cash out on that. You can make that futures bet on August 26th. I got the Ravens winning the Super Bowl this year. Let me know who your pick is. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. Visit it today. Start playing your future bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. And again, that's August 26th on FanDuel.com or in the FanDuel app. So I'm always curious about what you guys think. And in the YouTube comments yesterday, I was discussing the 5 reasons why you should be excited for TCU football this upcoming season. That was my Thursday podcast. And a YouTube user chimed in. This is Matten. He says, they better contend or we need to have a discussion. They better contend or we need to have a discussion. And I'm assuming, maybe incorrectly, but I'm assuming you're talking about Sonny Dykes. So it made me wonder, and I'd love to get your thoughts. Is Sonny on the hot seat in 2025? And I guess what's the number of wins that he needs to get to be safe? I've changed my tune on this somewhat. I mean, after the Houston game last year, I didn't think it was going to happen during the middle of the season, but I was trending towards, I believed at the end of the year, TCU would be looking for a new coach because I thought the year was going to play out pretty painfully, but they turned things around. Excuse me. I think that turnaround bought him some time, even with a new athletic director and Mike Buddy, who you never know. I mean, he might come in and say, you know what? I want my guy, but I don't see that being the case. So I think going into this season, as long as TCU gets to 7 wins, I feel good about Sonny's chances to come back. I don't think just getting to a bowl game is enough. Like 6-6 would feel very disappointing. And by the way, my expectation, I think this team should be playing for a Big 12 championship this year. That's what I expect to see. So if they don't get there, then they'll fall below expectations. And what does it mean to contend? In my mind, that means you control your own destiny with a few weeks left in the season. That doesn't mean, I know last year, like Baylor had an outside shot late in the year, but it doesn't mean in week 11, if you win and 5 teams lose, you're in Arlington. No, that's not contending to me. I mean, I understand mathematically you have a chance and things happen, whatever. But in my mind, contending means with a couple weeks left in the year, you control your own destiny. If you win your games, you're in. Now, I do wonder moving forward how fans and administrators view, like 9-4 last season. Was it successful? I think it was. I feel like it was a building block towards what we hopefully see now. That's a team that's playing for a championship. But especially in the new Big 12, which fair or unfair, I believe 12 of the 16 teams think they have a chance to win the title. And with no true team that's taken over yet or has shown an ability to be consistently good, does that record move the needle as much as it did in the past, right? I have questions about that. But I think the combination of finishing the season strong, good vibes around the program, and a new athletic director, all that works in his favor, actually. And yeah, I think if they don't make it to Arlington, then we're having some discussions, but I don't feel like it's about job security. I think it's more like, okay, then 2026 is a make or break year. And I'm sure a lot of you disagree with me about that. So please chime in on YouTube or hit me up on Twitter, and I'll get to it Monday because we're hitting the weekend. Thank you for listening to the show this week. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast.